Mommy, pay attention to what you've done.
She's crying. She's...
I don't think I've seen Sandy as a child. I would say from 9-year-old, snooker took over Sandy's world.
I was just like a knockabout kid in Belfast, and most kids at school used to stop into the billiard hall at lunchtime, you know, because school food wasn't that clever, so it was a Mars bar and a Coca-Cola and a game of snooker. As soon as school was finished, I would play a solid 4 hours. I mean, my sisters used to come up to the snooker club and pull me out and say, your tea's ready, you've got to go down and have your tea. But I'd gulp my tea down and I'd be back up to play again.
As a youngster, Higgins left Belfast for England to become a jockey. He grew too big and says he wouldn't have made it anyway. Instead, Alex moved to Accrington in Lancashire to find the centre of the snooker scene. There he caught the eye of bingo promoter John McLaughlin.
When I first met him, frankly, he was really in a mess.
Under the eye, 287, 27.
His clothing was in a shabby state, he had holes in his socks. He was through to the blacking on his shoes. And he was just in a general mess. Apart from being carried away with his snooker ability, he was really in despair.
Well, I heard about him from John McLaughlin and Jack Leeming, friends of mine, the bingo proprietors, and they kept coming to me and saying, you want to see this guy that's wandered into the old post office billiard hall with a billiard cue and a meat pie in his hand, and that's all he had, and they said, it's magic. And I didn't take a lot of notice at first.
You could call that the luck of the Irish,
But when I went down, it was true, it was magic. I've never seen anything like it. He was so fast then. I know this sounds strange, but he was so fast then. He'd have made Jimmy White look like a tortoise.
35.
And it was this speed of play that prompted John McLaughlin to dub him the Hurricane.
Well, what does hurricane mean? It just means tornado, like, or what have you. But, I mean, Alexander the Great was a person in history. And I wanted to be sort of remembered, you know, because there's no doubt about it, I'm the greatest at present. And probably for as long as I want to be. So that's probably why I want to be Alexander the Great.
Using his ability and the management help of 3 friends, Dennis Broderick, John McLaughlin and Jack Leeming, money started to come easy for Alex. But could he handle it?
Most of the money he was receiving went on horses, and if he won on the horses, perhaps he spent a bit more on drink. He had just the 3 vices: gambling, drinking and women.
Bloody Mary.
And it would be 1 o'clock in the morning when I dropped him off, and at 9 o'clock in the morning after, he would have nothing. So I didn't use the... I thought, well, where's it gone between that, but it had gone.
You didn't dare ask?
No. No. He could spend it. He could spend it very fast.
What would you use this money for now, one today? It's over £300.
I'll go into the Yorkshire Bank. It'll be invested, you know. And off the investment, you see, I'll have another bet off the investment. But apart from that, you see, it's only a pleasure, you know.
Yeah.
Hello, sweetheart, all right?
Word about Alex's crowd-pleasing style soon spread, and he was being booked to play exhibitions near and far.
If they clapped and cheered, Alex would stop all night. I used to have to bring him home at times, say, you've played 13 frames, Alex, let's go. Well, they want some more, and this is why he was the People's Champion.
Alex knew he was too good for the amateur championships and chose to enter the World Professional Championship instead. At his first attempt, he made it to the final, where he faced world number 1, John Spencer.
It was very tight. It went afternoon and night. There wasn't a frame between them up till Thursday. And then Alex won 1 complete session, had one of his magic periods, and he won a complete session of 6 frames in the afternoon. And to anybody who'd been watching, when a match had been only 1 frame between 2 people all week, and then on the Thursday, somebody, you know it's over with then. And so did John, in my opinion, knew it was over with.
Well, actually at this moment I think I'm in a bit of a daze, although I think I'm just starting to come out of it, you know, and realise that I'm the world champion.
Going to the table on Saturday night, what were your feelings? He attacked towards the end of this match.
No, he didn't actually. He attacked about. He didn't. He just played the same game, this cautious sort of a game. John Spencer is not an attacking player anymore.
And after that, everybody wanted to watch Alex Higgins. The people either hated him or loved him. So his effect was enormous. I mean, he was the driving force.
Alex's flamboyance set him apart from other snooker players, and the press made him into a celebrity of sorts. He was saddled with the reputation of being emotional, quick-tempered, and a hard drinker.
I was born with a very fast approach to snooker, but equally, I was also born with a short fuse. So really, if fair be fair, I think I've been nicer to the majority of people as against being sort of way nasty to people.
And then Alex appeared. And I didn't know him from Adam. I mean, you know, 15, 16, 17 years ago, the cover of television wasn't as purposeful as it is nowadays. And I saw what I assumed to be this huge, great wine bar walking down the corridor, doing this at 108 miles an hour with this huge, great papier-mâché covered wine bottle. He then stuck it on my new snooker table and then began to fire balls into it in all sorts of different directions. And I thought, there is somebody that I must believe in. And then after that I have. And then after that, then everything has become so much alive for his idiocy.
It does get a bit lonely. It's very glamorous when you're playing in front of 300 or 400 people, but it's when the exhibition's over and you go back to your hotel room and you sit there and have a couple of drinks, and it's usually alone you sit there, you know, and you get up the next day and then you start travelling to the next place, you know. And sometimes you feel just like a sort of freight travelling around the circuit.
And remember, he had a big hat on with corks hanging down, a bow tie. And I thought, who's that loony over there? And I didn't like him instantly. He rang me a couple of times after that, and I went home that night and said to Mum, oh, Alex Higgins has asked me to go out for dinner with him. She said, oh, don't go out with him. I've heard all about him, like George Best, stay away. So that got me a bit intrigued, and I thought, well, I'll go. And within about 3 months, he'd moved into my parents' house.
Television had begun to take an interest in snooker, and its focus naturally fell on Alex.
I'm the entertainer, and I know just where I stand. Another serenader, and another long-haired band. Today I am your champion. I may have won your hearts, but I know the game, you forget my name. I won't be here in another year if I don't stay on the charts.
And I suddenly thought, wow, I could make this little jumping cuckoo monk a lot of money, but didn't know him 17 years ago because nobody had seen him, let alone me. I was interested in crumpet in those days, not neurotic jumping balls. And we went into the study and had a few whiskies, and said to him, do you know, I could make you a lot of money. And Hurricane, being Hurricane, said, how? Because he's such a mean bastard. And anyway, after Hurricane had left the table, I said we could make a lot of money. And he said, but people will recognize me. And I thought, there is the rub.
I don't approach anybody, they come to Alex, and the thing is that there's an awful lot of nice people that come to me, but there again there's a few idiots that just come there and they want to sort of start trouble. And suddenly one of these characters comes in and splits you from your friends, and you try and be as nice as possible, saying, excuse me, look, I'm talking to John or Betty or whoever it may be. And a lot of these people turn nasty, and I mean, I'm 9 stone 12, a 10 stone wet through. I certainly don't want to come back as a George Foreman or something like that there.
When he's playing, I notice this quite often, when he's playing in a match, and when he's come away from the table and is sitting down at his seat, that half of the audience will be watching the other player, but half of the audience are actually watching Alex sitting down, looking for a reaction, as if something's going to happen every minute, you know. They're totally fascinated by it. If he walks in a room, people stare at him, as if they're expecting something to happen every minute of every day. Of course, it's not like that. But, I mean, the charisma, the myth, if you like, of Alex Higgins is there all the time.
1980 saw Alex lose a world final against Cliff Thorburn, but win a prize of a different kind. In August, Lynn and Alex married.
I remember arriving at the church and thinking, am I doing the right thing? As I got out of the car, and there was press men everywhere, and it was like bedlam. I don't think I really had time to think about it. I just stood at the altar and thought, what am I letting myself in for? You know, I really did.
Within a year, Alex was a father.
He did dote on her. I mean, he used to change the nappies, he'd get up with her in the night, he used to feed her. He suddenly had something that was his, because, as you know, he was away from home from an early age when he was at the stables. And I don't think he'd ever really belonged anywhere.
But was this really the right preparation for the 1982 World Championship? It seemed ideal, as Alex coasted to the semis to meet an exciting new talent named Jimmy White. But at 14-15 down, things didn't look good.
And Alex finding it hard to bear, I think, at the moment.
Jimmy had me hung, drawn and quartered, but what he did from there was like he made one mistake, and I was fighting for my life, 29. I was fighting for my life, and unfortunately, I lived.
With barely enough points in the table, Alex had just one chance.
The 69 break is self-explanatory, and equally, I wouldn't even like to go through that again, because, like, if you miss, you're dead.
And that's a tremendous shot under pressure. A lot of courage Alex has got. Well, it's not an easy position, this. He might elect to play a safe. Looks as though it's going for the blue into the top right-hand corner. And then another tremendous shot.
Red into the corner pocket, right-hand bottom pocket. Oh, and that's a beautiful shot. Oh, marvellous. Alex winding up the frame and indeed the match. And what a victory.
Yes, Jack, I think one of the most exciting matches I've ever seen in my life, this.
And Jimmy looking rather sad, but at least he has the consolation of being just a young lad of 20, and he'll come again. So Jimmy White concedes. And what a splendid finish. And a truly, truly superb semi-final. So the People's player now has a chance to really be the People's champion.
Ray Reardon stood between him and his second World Championship.
The 33-year-old Irishman, making hay while the sun shines. going out in a complete blaze of glory here.
There was no worries whatsoever with
Dracula.
Dracula, as Kingo put it. I really went to sleep against Redden because, like, it got to 15 each. He should have been well home and struck well before that. But as I say, you can...
You can't take liberties, can you?
Yeah, but there's even jockeys relax in front. Once it got to a stage where it was, what do you call it? 15 each. I suddenly found a different game. The 1-3-5 finish, it was a nice way to do the business.
Just 3 balls to go now for a break of 135. Ray Reardon has sat in his chair for the whole of this final frame. Fantastic. And the Embassy World Snooker Champion for 1982 is Alex Hurricane Higgins. Completely exhausted is Higgins. Standing ovation throughout the 1,000 people here at the Crucible Theatre in Sheffield. Alex Hurricane Higgins, after 10 years, has regained the title.
Oh, it's hard to explain that night in my mother's house. Well, actual days, the 2 days that it was going on, you know, it was just turmoil, really. And then on the actual night, when he had won, I just cried my eyes out, really. I did. I just cried my eyes out. Everybody cried. Neighbours and all cried. I think it was a few tears of happiness and probably a mixture of sadness and everything in it, really, that had come round the second time.
I remember being in the arena when he was calling me on with Lauren, and I thought, well, people say, oh, why didn't you come sooner? And I thought, well, it's his moment. He'd won the championship. I didn't want to get in on the act at all. And I stood there with him and the cup in the arena, and I thought, oh, God, here we go now. My problems are going to start.
As world champion, Alex was an even heavier demand, and the pressure of work caused a rift between him and Lynn.
I think his social life changed a lot. He was mixing with more famous people. He was in London more. And I just think he got into bad habits. And I think he used to wait till I went to bed and then he'd start having a drink at home. And then it got to the stage where he was having one at lunchtime, and it annoyed me because he'd get up at lunchtime, want to have breakfast when we'd all had lunch. And then he'd sit there in front of the television. I mean, he used to say, well, I've been working hard and I want to relax, but it was the television, his cigarettes, his newspapers, and his beer. And I used to think, well, this is no life for the children, you know, to be brought up into an atmosphere like this.
Lynn couldn't bear Alex's new lifestyle and left him in August 1983. A reconciliation holiday later that year ended in a suicide attempt which nearly killed Alex. But despite everything that had happened, Lynn went back to him.
It took him 6 months to get me back, really. He promised me he'd sort himself out, and he has a way with words sometimes. They say he's a showman when he plays snooker, but he is in his private life as well. I mean, he can just get the tears rolling at a minute's notice. He's very emotional, and he can make you feel so sorry for him in 5 minutes. As I say, it took him 6 months to get me back, and the condition I came back was that he would go into Cheadle Royal and just have some tests and just calm himself down. I thought he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, because 1 minute he could be really happy and then he could just fly off the handle. His personality, it was as though he had a split personality. So he booked himself into Cheadle Royal and stayed there about 5 days. It was like being in a 5-star hotel. Every time I went to see him, he had ordered lager, and I thought, well, you're supposed to be in here to have yourself sorted out. And he used to have a menu, and he could just pick and choose, and he'd have them running out for things for him. And I thought, well, this is no good. But I'd already moved back at this stage. And he stayed there and checked himself out. He said they were all nutty and he'd had enough. There was, you know, nothing wrong with him.
Shortly after this turmoil, Alex faced his classic rival in the final of the UK Championship. After just one session of play, the match seemed as if it was almost over.
The 1983 Coral UK. He's playing Davies. Davies in his prime, winning everything. He's playing Higgins. Afternoon session is 7-0 down. I mean, Davies has blitzed him off the table. The Sunday papers have all written their headlines, first edition, Hurricane blown out, Hurricane finished, Hurricane this, you know.
Unaffected by the scoreline, still being able to play his game and able to control a game from any situation. A tremendous cueist when he's playing well. And 7-0 up, one session of snooker I dominated, but he dominated the next 3.
A terrific shot then by Higgins. A tremendous final. And it's all down to the last frame. It's a pity there has to be a loser. Higgins now 48 points in front.
Just like to leave Steve leading snookers.
7 frames to 0.
Alex replied.
And so the congratulations and the commiserations. The UK Championship final, one of the best on record, is over. And Alex Higgins is the UK champion 1983.
Sunday afternoon, Higgins wins, or Sunday night, Higgins wins 16-15. I mean, just the sheer effort of coming back from 7-0 down against Davies in full flow.
Ain't no crime to waste time. This boy is stormy weather. He's gonna rain on you. They say you're gonna slide, slide, slide. They'll be taking for a ride.
Blue and pink to win.
What I am, you say they call me the hurricane.
Centre erupts. Four times this season, Higgins has lost to Davies, but now he's won. And a tremendous evening for him and his supporters. The people's champion has done it again.
The crowd, Alex, certainly behind you. Does that make a great deal of difference to you?
It has its good points and its bad points. I mean, I cringe at times because, you know, like, when people boo a good player, it's not particularly nice. You know, I mean, personally, I hate Steve Davies, but apart from that, he's a very, very good professional snooker player. He's where he is on ability. You know, he plays a game that's different to mine and whatever. He's more calculated and whatever. But equally, you can't decry a bloke for that type of thing. And sometimes, I just don't know where to put my face. And tonight I thought, well, if they want to get at it, I'll be the people's champion again.
There isn't any animosity between Alex and us, other than the fact that we were sort of really competing with each other, and you probably can't be too friendly with somebody you're having to compete with. It would be a strange person that could be very good friends with another top of the sort of the cream of the players, and I don't think that was ever a problem between us. I mean, there's been various occasions we've sort of had a go at each other, but really, I mean, looking at it now, I mean, they're all just fun things, really. We're incident-free, which our only incidents were on the snooker table, and the limited amount of press that our differences in style caused people to think we were sort of hating each other. I've told a story for many years that I don't hate Alex, and he saved my life, and I came outside the stage door of a tournament and 3 blokes set upon me, started beating me up. Fortunately for me, Alex came round the corner and said, "That should be enough, lads."
And then he bought this house in Prestbury, this large house. I didn't want to have friends around for dinner because he'd been watching horse racing in the afternoon, he'd had a couple of drinks, and I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to invite people round to be drinking all evening and him to change personality, so I said no. So he just stormed off out to the pub, and he got back about 11 o'clock, and he just started saying, well, this is what I think of your gold cutlery, sort of smashing it around, and this is what I think about your Waterford crystal, and smashed it, and this is what I think about this, and everything seems to be going through windows, so I just locked my daughter, myself and the au pair into a bedroom, and he was trying to hammer through a very thick door with a golf club, and I made the children go under the bed, and it was horrific for 3 hours until he decided to go and lock the gates. And he went outside, and I phoned my mother and told her to phone the police, and my dad arrived, and the police came, and it was just awful for me. It's not even, I really don't want to discuss any more of it because it still brings back quite hurtful memories.
The court heard how Alexander Gordon Higgins had a row with his wife, then threw a TV from the bedroom window of his Cheshire country home, smashed ornaments and several panes of glass. Mrs. Higgins dialed 999. She told police he's gone mad. Alex Higgins wouldn't let the police in at first. When they did reach him, he went berserk, and it took 3 officers to arrest him. He'd been moving towards a draw, shouting, "That's it. There's only one way for Alex Higgins to end it." Police said he was drunk. In court, Higgins denied being drunk, but admitted offensive behaviour. He was bound over to keep the peace for a year. If he doesn't, he'll forfeit £200.
I don't like to be surprised with warrants for arrest and stuff like that there, so we can probably enjoy the rest of Christmas.
Are you friends with your wife again now?
We do talk and chat and whatever. Of course, we've never stopped being friends.
Do you think you'll have any trouble keeping the peace for a year?
I don't know. It all depends who tries to accost me on the street or on a train or in a plane or whatever. You know, I should manage for a year, I imagine. I'll go and have a drink with him both and see if he can strip me out. Ta-ta. See you, boys.
Mr. Higgins says he now wants to go away, forget the whole thing, and enjoy what's left of Christmas.
I have people that tell me that you drink too much. I have other people that don't think I drink too much at all. One thing I don't do, which doesn't really compliment, even if you have a few drinks, is because of my nerves. I'm a very poor eater. I don't eat away from home. I mentioned a little bit earlier about the hotels, the restaurants don't generally open until 7 o'clock or whatever. You know, like, I'm the type of person that I don't like the look of something, I just won't eat it. It's nothing new for me to go without food for a day and a half, 2 days. And maybe that's where I might go screwy when I've had a few drinks.
Mercantile Credit Classic. Alex arrives, 2 black eyes. Everyone, Higgins must be. Higgins in fight, shock, horror, probe, punch-up, scandal. You know, everyone's saying that. I mean, it's obvious. But he says, no, he was out on an early morning gallop on a horse and got kicked by a horse. We all laughed. Yeah, good story, Alex. Don't believe that one.
This morning, very early, with the lock, I went to Mr. John Carden, who lives in a farm just behind me, and I rode out one of his horses.
Yeah.
And just like yesterday, the little hillock,
yes.
a horse.
Gave us the name of the trainer of the horse, which was called Dreadnought. Phoned up, one of our colleagues phoned up the trainer. Yep, Alex was here, got injured by the horse. We swallowed it hook, line and sinker. Headlines the next day, Higgins kicked by a horse, blah, blah, blah. They even, a couple of papers even sent down photographers to get a picture of the horse.
But tonight he came clean. He had been in a spot of bother after all, and not with a horse, but at this snooker club in Stockport.
During this big match with Dennis Taylor, I didn't want the press to know anything about this because the match was very important, and it was a disagreement between myself and Paul Medati. And
Paul Medati being another
snooker player, yeah. Well, we had the disagreement, and it was settled amicably. I mean, like...
That's amicably, is it?
Yeah. Well, you want to see the other fellow?
I mean, I think that Alex and I have been in the same way. We're shocking or amusing. Alex doesn't do it solely for his own justification, and I promise you that I don't act because I think I'm so bloody marvellous. I do it for a living. He's a professional, so am I. And the public wish to be entertained by professional entertainers. Nothing further than that. If it was, the rest would be a mere popinjay.
Oh, is that good? You like that?
Thanks very much, Alex.
A lot of colour, a lot of ulcers, a lot of late nights, tremendous amount of bar bills, and a lot of stories, because, you know, he's one of the characters, and characters make sports.
The breakup and the added pressure of press interest began to tell. At the Preston Guildhall in 1986, the Higgins temper struck again.
It must have been midnight or whatever time it was. I mean, virtually the auditions had gone. And I'd rushed down there and I'd just seen the aftermath of it. And I've gone back up the press room and I've said, lads, you won't believe this. Alex has just headbutted the tournament director. And they've gone, oh, don't be silly, Terry, this is stupid, it's 12 o'clock, it's not April Fool's. I said, honestly, he's headbutted the tournament director. And of course, after that, hell let loose. There was everyone running everywhere and getting statements, and the police arrived and Alex was ushered away. But I mean, you don't often walk back into a press room and just say a player has headbutted the tournament director, you know.
And this was the result when Paul Hatherall's eyebrow came into contact with Higgins' forehead. The tournament director had been persuading the player to take a routine drugs test. Higgins thought he was being victimised.
Basically, he was very annoyed, the fact that he felt that he had been singled out. I had to explain to him that, you know, the selection is taken many, many weeks before the competition. And indeed, I think he was in the quarterfinals of that competition. So, you know, to get there at 128 players, he could have been anybody else. But he just obviously wouldn't listen to reason.
Alex Higgins emerged from a Manchester police station after talking to two Preston officers for an hour.
Gentlemen, my client through me wishes to state that he's attended the police station voluntarily, and at the earliest opportunity, all courtesy has been extended to him.
The police said he'd been interviewed regarding offences of assault and criminal damage. The affair was being referred to a prosecuting solicitor.
What sparked it off? I went into my office, because he'd taken over my office at that time using the phone, and I stayed outside. And I went in to get some bits and pieces. And as I walked through the door, he attacked me. So what sparked it off, and for that reason, I just don't know.
So as soon as you walked through the door, he went for you?
Yes, he did.
In Preston, the game's governing body ducked immediate action, but said he could eventually be thrown out of the game, but will play tomorrow.
The board is appalled at the alleged incidents and will not tolerate this type of behaviour from any player. However, the board will be not drawn into speculation as to the outcome, nor will the board prejudge the present complaint.
Tonight, somewhat eccentrically dressed at his home, he came out to meet the encamped media. But first, his portable phone rang.
Alex, this is very important. Could be my solicitor.
Alex, turn around this way a little bit.
Hello? Business going well. Send more money.
But if he was banned, could he live without snooker?
Could snooker face life without me?
For his match the next day, his supporters turned out in force.
Today. Gonna try?
The latest controversy engulfing Higgins seems to have divided the snooker fans.
Well, disgraceful, really. I mean, you know, it's just, I don't think he's a people's champion anymore.
It's a bit like John McEnroe, isn't he, for tennis. He's erratic, but he's brilliant. That's what the people come to think.
The WPBSA used a one-man tribunal to judge Alex's case. He was fined £12,000 and was banned from 5 tournaments. It was snooker's severest ever punishment.
Tonight, Higgins' manager hustled his man away, describing the punishment as harsh. The Hurricane said he'd accept it and come back fighting. He added, "I can go back to the grassroots and meet the people again."
Did Alex feel victimised by the tests?
I've had more drug tests than probably a lot of snooker players. I never failed a drug test once.
Shot. That's lovely.
It's one of those days where you get celebrities and sponsors come along and get the whole day going. And yeah, we have a good time, but we also raise money for charity, which is the East Cheshire Hospice. You forget it's a charity event. You're out to play golf, and out on the golf course, his natural competitiveness, which Alex has, comes to the fore, and he does well. He's a good lad. See, all the celebrities, who normally are terribly expensive, as you probably know, and charge high fees, give their time free for virtually a whole day and often the evening as well. So it is a generous gesture that's very well appreciated.
But the last 6 or 7 of these golf tours, it's been like this.
Yeah?
Rain. But hurricanes, I suppose, are used to rain and storm and all the rest of it.
Alex's problems were mounting. He hadn't managed his money well, and the Inland Revenue were suing for bankruptcy. Alex had changed management after the Black Eye affair, but his new company, Framework, was wound up in 1989, with Alex claiming they owed him over £51,000.
I was never born with a business brand. I was born with a snooker brand. And I think one of my great failings is putting too much trust in people. And I must say that an awful lot of people have, for want of a better word, have stabbed me in the back.
Alex was without a manager. So why didn't top snooker impresario Barry Hearn take him on?
He's so unpredictable. If he'd have just been a pain all of the time, I could have probably coped with that. But you never knew where you were with Alex. You never knew what was going to happen on and off the table. Because of his unpredictability, he was major box office on the table, but unmanageable off, certainly by me anyway.
Barry's realises he's a promoter that I put bums on seats, you know, and most sports wouldn't be viable unless you had people come through the turnstiles. As far as me being unmanageable, I don't think so, because everything that's been said in the press, there's been so many misdemeanours which, as far as I'm concerned, are lies. And ideally throughout my life, I think I can count the times I haven't turned up in a 21-year career on one hand. That was well struck, a bit right.
Alex's new manager was Doug Perry, an agent and friend he had first met in 1982.
I found, first of all, I had to quicken my walking pace to double, because he seems to run everywhere. I found myself running after him. He was walking, I was running, and could never keep up with him. And the second thing I found was I had to get pretty used to not eating, because like if you ate, you seemed to feel guilty. You never seemed to eat. I mean, all these years in the business, and remember we're talking 20 years now as a pro, still nervous, still can be physically sick before he plays, or physically sick when he's played. He comes back in the dressing room. It's not unusual. 15 minutes later, he's facing the world's press. So, I mean, if you have a blow-up in the dressing room, all of a sudden, you've got 15 minutes, basically, to calm him down before he meets the press, because otherwise, you don't want that to carry on and, you know, to come out in the wrong type of press story.
But if the press had enjoyed themselves with Alex's other problems, they could scarcely believe their luck at what was to happen next. Alex had fallen 25 feet from a first-floor window, claiming at the time he had mistaken the window for the door.
He landed on his heel, obviously, rather like a parachutist lands. And probably because he'd had quite a lot to drink, he was more relaxed than most of us would be, falling from a height. And he got away with it. He had quite a nasty head injury at the same time, where his head probably hit the pavement.
The truth behind the fall lies in an evening out with a friend and fellow player, Tony Kearney.
And I mean, this was much, I hope it's the right word, I hope my English is good, much to Siobhan's chagrin. She thought, what are you doing with him? Out boozing. And one way or another, we found our way into a casino. I went home and I was well annoyed because I'd lost about, I don't know, 600 or 700 quid. And I was cursing myself and I was half legless. And at the end of the day, Blondie locked me in. And I don't know what I was drinking, but I must have been flying. And I had my lovely trench coat out of Louis Copeland's on. Yeah. And it was a Dexter, you know. And I thought, well, that doesn't look too far to drop down to. And of course, like, there was a gust of wind. And it caught one end, and it sort of unbalanced my landing. So I landed on one foot. And obviously, I paid a very big penalty for having a night out with the lads.
This was probably about 10 days before he was due to play in Deauville. When we heard of the accident, and Siobhan rang me, you know, to tell me about it, we thought that was the end of it. And blow me, a few days after he came out of hospital, they don't plaster these fractures now, they leave them loose. We came out of hospital on crutches and rang me and said, will you come to Deauville with me and look after my foot? And I couldn't believe he was going.
Couldn't believe it. I mean, watching him arrive on crutches, I mean, other players would have just said, well, I'm out of this tournament and good night, I'll stay at home. Alex arrived, got over there, and we watched him practice. I mean, it was the most incredible sight you've ever seen, watching this man hop round a table. You actually try and hop round a table. He did it for 3 hours when he played Les Dodd. I mean, he came in the press room afterwards, he was dripping, his shirt was soaked with sweat. I mean, he was just a wreck.
Watching that match, there was like 38 spectators, and like 30 of them were snooker players, and the others were referees, and we're all hysterical in laughter, you know, like we were doubled over everybody in the aisles. It was so funny watching Alex run around this table.
Because he was
he won,
around, wasn't he?
I couldn't believe it, he won.
I went there to get a point. And what's more, with a little bit more practice, and if I won one frame against Willie, and if I hadn't got a kick on the yellow, I could have been leading 2-1. And like his bottle would have probably went then. I'm quite sure of that. But my point was proven. It was. And most certainly sure it was.
If winning a ranking point in Deauville were not enough, Alex's next performance was truly remarkable. Still hobbling, he fought his way to the final of the Irish Masters. There he faced snooker's new sensation, Stephen Hendry.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as you well know, there's a lot of pressure on this last frame. Both players will get very upset if you shout. You're already upsetting them. Let's keep it down, quiet, one frame. Let's all enjoy it. The final frame, Stephen Hendry to break.
I remember going 4-0 in front, playing very well, and then all of a sudden he's coming back, and bearing in mind that Alex was his foot was still sore, and I remember the more I was in front, the worse his foot seemed to be. But he started playing well, and then he was walking normally around the table, which I thought was a bit strange. But at night, his play was incredible. You know, I was playing safety shots, and he was digging in shots the length of the table, then the cushion, and you know, I think I made a century break at night, and there was a slight, you know, from the audience, and Alex would pot one ball and the crowd would just go absolutely mental, so there was a slight bias there. But no, I enjoyed it, obviously the losing, but it was a tremendous match to be involved in.
Loaded down with physical, financial and emotional problems, Alex joined Dennis Taylor to play for Northern Ireland in the British Car Rental World Cup.
I had a great buzz for playing for my country, and I always played to win the game. Previously, there was never any talk of the horse break, about who would get the horse break. We just assumed it would be split amongst team members.
In his match, Alex had the chance to win the highest break prize of £6,000, which he believed was to be shared by the team. Instead, he chose to secure a frame win for the team.
Anyway, I finished the match and I only drew one each, and I walked out and Dennis Taylor was there, and the first thing he said to me, and I was stupid to take the bet, because he said to me, "I've still got the horse break." Now that meaning, I've still got the horse break, and I'm keeping the money. I said, because I've known him since I was about 16 or 17. I said, "You're a greedy bastard." And he went on and on. I said, "Look you," I said, "if I had a gun in my hand, I'd blow your brains out." I didn't say I'd get anybody to blow his brains out. I said I would blow his brains out. When we went into the players' room, went into the WPBSA room, which sort of doubled as a players' room, he started shouting his mouth off again, and Spencer chimed in and what have you, and it started off again. Mm-hmm. And then they were eager to take his side. But I swear to God that I didn't say I would have anybody shoot Dennis Taylor. I said, as an overstatement, I said, "I'd blow your brains out myself."
Both Dennis Taylor and John Spencer, a witness to the threat, have declined to appear in this programme. However, here are excerpts from an interview given by Dennis at the time of the incident. Speaking about his keeping the prize money, he said, "It was Alex's idea in the first place. I'm supposed to be captain of the team, but we've always gone along with Alex rather than cause the team to be in disarray." Higgins said to me, "I come from the Shankill, you come from Coal Island, and the next time you're in Northern Ireland, I'll have you shot." I'll never speak to him again, and the crazy thing is that the majority of people side with him because they don't know what sort of person he is. If they did, he wouldn't get the support he does. I just wish I had a tape recorder with me. I just wish I had a tape recorder with me.
And of course, then they then met in the quarter-final of the Benson Hedges Masters. Higgins defending champion, and Taylor, two Irishmen playing each other, and it was labelled quite rightly so the grudge match of all time.
Ireland's top horse racing Bloodstock Sales Ring was the venue for the grudge match. The authorities had a presence in case of trouble. Taylor, whom Higgins had threatened to have shot, was trying to concentrate on the game.
I'm hoping to just knock a few more in than he will.
But you're still upset about what he said?
Yeah, well, that'll take a while.
The Hurricane retreated to his room. The people's champion didn't want to meet anybody.
They interviewed people walking in beforehand and got their opinion. Do you support Taylor? Do you support Higgins?
Definitely have to go for Alex.
Why is that?
He's definitely the people's champion.
I was always a good supporter of Alex, but I didn't like what he said to Dennis.
We all say things like that when we're drunk.
They can't ban the most popular man in snooker. It's as simple as that. There'd be no one here if Alex Higgins wasn't here.
Higgins finally emerged to meet his still adoring public, and then the mandatory handshake for two Irishmen of different faiths who heartily dislike each other, quite civil. Taylor took the first frame in a match he desperately wanted to win. But the people's champion showed all his old skill and a bit of luck to take the second. He may face a life ban, but there's no one quite like the Hurricane. Giles Smith, ITN Sport, County Kildare.
Despite publicly apologising to Dennis, it seemed impossible for Alex to escape another ban. Before a tribunal was to sit in judgment, though, the World Championship was to be played. In the worst psychological state imaginable, Alex was knocked out in the first round. It was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Alex Higgins concedes forthwith. I mean, after that match, it was the most strange, one of the strangest days and one of the saddest days of my life, because he stayed, during the interval, he stayed in the arena, which I've never known him to do before, or any player to do. He actually sat in his seat throughout the interval, didn't come out. I wanted him to come out to have the 15 minutes break and talk, and but he didn't. He chose to stay in there. And I watched this press conference on a TV monitor in another room. Basically, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was sitting there, it was like watching a film. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I almost had to slap myself and say, is this really happening? And I knew then, as I sat there, this was a recipe for disaster.
So I would like to announce my retirement from professional snooker. But I'm not playing snooker anymore because this game is the most corrupt game in the world.
Immediately after this, Alex is alleged to have punched a WPBSA press officer in the stomach. For various misdemeanours, Alex was banned for 10 months and had all his ranking points taken away. This sent him to 97th in the rankings, which meant he must play in every qualifying round of the tournaments on his return.
Obviously, I have a great love for snooker, and I shall continue to play one way or another. I'm disappointed, but I'll just have to take it like a man.
It was the most severe ban ever imposed by the WPBSA, but was it fair?
I think it was actually far too severe. I think they had to show an example. I mean, as you know, the reason he was banned was for various disciplinary charges and basically bringing the game into disrepute. I suppose that the most serious being the press conference after the World Championship match against Steve Jones, which he lost, which was a very outspoken press conference. He basically bared his soul to the TV cameras, and you just can't do that in this game, unfortunately. The rules don't allow it.
Fair? Yes, probably. I think sooner or later, you couldn't let him get away with everything. He would have been robbing a great train. He'd have been doing a great train robbery next. He got away with so much during his life. I think he's been up for about 16 or 17 times for disciplinary measures. Eventually they had to ban him. No, in this case, it could have been this one, it could have been the one before, or the one before that. But he was due, and it was time.
Well, I think, a lot of things are said in the heat of the moment. I think Alex has said a lot of things in the heat of the moment, and, certainly a lot of things he's done in the past have been taken way out of context. Obviously, he's done a lot of bad things, but, he's done some things that are very, very small that have got in the news, that if I did or anyone else of the players did, they wouldn't get in the news. So it's an unfortunate position that Alex is in.
But then I remember being on the board of the WPBSA when we were going to ban him before. This is going back several years. He'd done something quite atrocious. It was so bad, I can't even remember. And Higgins came in for the disciplinary hearing with half a dozen bottles of champagne and said, chaps, now before we listen to this, shall we have a drink? And he brought his pet cat in with him. He said, I've had to bring my cat with me because my neighbour couldn't look after. He had some incredible excuse. And there we are listening to his excuses from some terrible piece of behaviour, drinking his champagne and watching the cat run round and pee on the floor. So, nothing is normal with Higgins. But no, the ban was justified. He's took it like a man. He'll be back. He won't be back better. I doubt if he'll be back wiser. But he'll just be back.
A man who burst upon the snooker scene some 20-odd years ago, nearly. Yes, just 20 years ago, 1971, as an unknown. And the following year, he became the youngest player ever to win the World Professional Snooker Championship in 72. He did it again in 82, between and since there have been many, many other titles. He's been charming audiences the world over with the speed and talent of his play. He still is one of the most exciting players that snooker has ever seen. He's here in Warrington tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the Irish Hurricane himself, Alex Higgins.
In my opinion, 1 year without Higgins, or one season without Higgins, has been disastrous for snooker. I mean, I get calls, letters all the time saying that the tournaments aren't the same without Alex there. He doesn't have to win a tournament to create interest. He just has to be there.
I've got about 2 months in front of me, a very hard practice, and I think I'd rather be out playing golf when we get to summertime, especially if we have a summer like last year's, and I've got to be in the snooker hall doing like about 6-7 hours a day while the sun's shining. So I mean, like, really the ban, and even a punishment like that is a very heavy man.
What sort of effect does it have on you, that ban, this 1 year ban?
Well,
you know, financially, for example.
Let's put it this way, I think I was into a recession before the rest of the country. By about maybe 9 months or 10 months. I mean, it's really what's happened in effect is I've been banned, but I think really because we've got so many snooker games on television that as a professional player, when they don't let you play in these tournaments, I mean, it is in effect like your livelihood that's been taken away.
Alex returns to WPBSA snooker on the 1st of August 1991. So what does the future hold for him?
Can he be a great player again, do you think?
No, I don't think so.
He's a spent force.
I believe so.
Yeah. And I don't say it with any feelings of satisfaction, as I'm sure a lot of people that he's wronged in the past do.
Well, there's one thing you can't do with Alex, and that's underestimate him or write him off. But I think the standards, even just a year that he's been away, the standards of snooker has risen so highly. There's so many young players that are in the game now who are just fearless potters, and you know, they're not frightened of anyone that they play. So he's going to perhaps get a shock.
The interesting thing about Higgins, and the one great weep, would be if he doesn't come back. If Higgins doesn't come back, if the People's Champion doesn't come back, then it's because he can't afford his own table. But it certainly won't be because he's crying over spilt milk.
I can't give up snooker because, like, I've passed job centres and it says window cleaner wanted. Not for me.
Snooker's your life from now on, then?
Well, it's going to be a part of my life. Whether I hit the heights that I've hit before, that remains to be seen. But by the same token, I wouldn't forget me too quickly.